I feel like there's a day when the stars align and you paint something that you're absolutely proud of. Today is that day for me. I have been dreaming of painting this particular miniature, been waiting and waiting and waiting, and today is the day. So today we are going to paint the Periphery Star Guard, and I said periphery wrong. Painting that today, and what I love about this scheme is the fact that is kind of emanating on the stars in space, and we're going to look at that right now. So we're looking at the lore pictures. And first, when you look online, you'll see this picture, all blue with little dots. And inside of the Merc companion book, they mention dots, big white dots and small white dots. Now, we're gonna look, if you look at some of the pictures that you can see on Camo specs, we'll see dots, but also larger stars. Now, those do have some lore base to them. I'll share it later, but if you see some of the pictures on Camo specs, you'll see that there's a half black, half dark blue background to kind of represent space. And here's a cool atlas. But the coolest one that I saw, which was found in the Merc companion book, was this Aerospace fighter. And as you see, it has that kind of mix of purples and blues, and I am loving this. But I do not like the little dots. So I'm going to do more stars on mine and get away from the dots. Now, I wanted to look at some inspiration, how this could look if I'm wanting to paint not the dots, and how am I going to look at space. So I don't know if you've seen, but the James Webb Telescope, it's old news now, but it has produced some of the most amazing images of space. And first and foremost, this is stinking amazing. And what I'm looking at is the stars, how they're coming across, and the colors. And this is the one I get the most inspired from. As you see, the stars in the picture have a radiant dot in the center, and then it's like an X, a line, and a small line in the center. So as I'm painting this, I'm going to try representing this. And also the stars far, far away, oops, zoomed in too much, they also have a bit of that X to them. So I'm going to show how to do that and how to create this kind of effect with the sponge. So let's dive in and paint the Periphery Star Guard. Now, since this miniature is going to be base black, I'm starting with a black primer. And when I start with the sponge method, I'm making sure I kind of rub off a lot of it and making sure the sponge has a dampness to it. And we've done this before in the other videos. And as you see, I'm trying to kind of create some space and make sure there's black space and a little bit of kind of an inconsistency, if that makes sense, of where I'm adding the blues around this aerospace fighter. The next step of building up that gradient of the colors is I'm going straight for that medium blue from Vallejo and leaving that darker blue underneath while showing underneath and building up higher, so the kind of that smooth gradient can be seen as I'm going up to the main raised areas. The final sponge is, I did rub off a lot of the paint when I was doing this, because the brighter you go, you want to get less of the paint on the makeup sponge, and I'm hitting it just with the turquoise from Vallejo. And again, I'm moving higher, almost when you think about when you're layering a miniature, you're doing the same thing kind of with this. Now I'm doing my method of black. I start with, I believe this is coal black from P3, and I want to do it, it's kind of that idea that this is the thicker highlight, but I don't want to think of it like that. I'm starting with the coal black as my base highlight. As I hit the edges, then I will go and use Thunderhawk blue, then a medium gray to go higher and higher where those highest points of color source will be coming. So when I start with the darker color, I'm hitting more of the edges. Then as I get brighter, it's less and less and less. And I guess this is a good time to talk about the lore. This merc group is really interesting. They served previously as this kind of distant explorers for Comstar, which is really interesting. So they were out searching the deepest places of the galaxy for Comstar. I don't know the full lore of this, but it sounds amazing. Next, it's the Thunderhawk Blue time. I'm hitting less of the edges. I would say maybe 60% of the edges seen. And I forgot to mention, I'm only highlighting the black parts. I'm not touching the places that have been highlighted with the blue sponge method because I'm going to highlight those later with blues and turquoises. And the final highlight is hitting just those very, like almost like the 20% of the edge of medium sea gray from Vallejo. I do feel like it's worth saying here too that I know edge highlighting is a pain and some people avoid it. Use the side of the brush as your kind of your helper, and I don't know, I used to be afraid of edge highlighting and it's now become this like meditation in a way while I'm listening to music. I'm enjoying it. Now moving to the metals, there are not many metal parts on this model. I have the little bolts on top. There's the I don't even know there's a missiles on the side. I need to know more about this model. And yeah, so there's not much. So I'm going to do a little bit of a different kind of shade. After I use Iron Hand Steel, I'm going to use Dragonhoth Nightshade from Citadel to wash it. So I get a little bit more of a blue tint to the metal. Now this is the fun part. I'm starting with the blue stars, and I'm going to create using a little bit of this like bright spot where it's radiating from. And for the bright spot, I started just using the Vallejo turquoise, but then it wasn't reading bright enough, so I switched to mixing Vallejo turquoise mixed with the Green Stuff World mint color. When I'm thinking about the star shape, I didn't want to go straight white, so I mixed and I forgot the name of it, mint twister. I'm mixing mint twister with off-white to create a little bit more of a bluish star to it. And following what I saw on that source image from the James Webb telescope and creating very small lines, because I feel like it's more readable rather than this big fat star. And the next part, I'm adding just the mint twister in the center. And after I do the mint twister, I do a small dot of white in the center of it. Now for the purple stars, I'm using Phantom Violet from Green Stuff World and doing the same concept where I'm building up just with the makeup sponge. And now it's good to know this makeup sponge, I tried starting with very little and it wasn't reading at all, and I was kind of hitting it too hard. So I went a little bit heavy on the paint and I wanted it to be more bright, and I think it looked good. And I did the same thing for the star. I mixed that violet purple with the off-white, so the star doesn't just read as bright white, but it has that mix of purplish and white. And what's cool about this Merc group is that they paint large stars on their vehicles and mechs to show when they killed an enemy fighter or mech. So it's kind of cool. Not only do these stars look interesting, but they have really cool lore. It's like the kill count on their fighter. In the center of the purple star, I did exactly the same thing. I took the center of the Phantom Violet, and then I did a white dot in the center. And I am really excited how this thing looks. Now, doing the white stars, I didn't like the white dots. I don't know why, I just feel like it doesn't look, I don't know, just a personal opinion. So the way I'm doing these stars, I'm doing a cross, or like an X, then I do one more line going from the top down. And I don't know if this is the best approach of doing it, but when I'm looking at it from the miniature perspective, I think it looks quite readable, like stars. And another really cool thing about this, these stars aren't just meant to look cool on the mech. They're supposed to show every distant galaxy and star that this group has traveled to. So it's kind of not a kill count like the large stars, but it's like a travel count. Like, you know, if you have a passport and you get the stamps, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like their stamped passport of where they've traveled throughout the distant galaxies. Now, I feel like it's missing something. Not only do I want to add more of the white stars, but I'm noticing I want another big star. Now, I don't show it in the video, but I did do 2 large purple stars underneath, but I decided to do one more of the blue stars on top of the fighter just to make it more like interesting, I guess. Now for the highlights just on the blue, not on the black, I'm starting with the Vallejo turquoise, and this is that big highlight, and I'm using the side of the brush to touch all the about 90% of the edges that I see would be catching any kind of light. The next step of the highlight, I mixed mint twister half and half with that Vallejo turquoise, just so I can kind of raise up the color just a little bit before I go too bright with just the mint twister. And finally the mint twister. So I'm just trying to do about 20% of the edges and just kind of the corners of the blue spots of the highlighting. And I'm not doing anything else but just the edges of the panels. I'm not going on any of the flat surfaces with these highlights. And to highlight the metals, I'm just taking the Vallejo brighter silver color, sterling silver I think, and highlighting just the small tips of the metals, nothing really too heavy, just kind of reading just a little bit of a highlight on there. And I feel like I need more stars. You'll see I'm adding random more stars throughout the video. I think as I'm highlighting, I'm just seeing, I'm like, hey, I want more of these things because they're looking pretty cool. Now I want to show kind of like this like glowing from the back exhaust. So I'm adding off-white to first the edges and a little bit of the center. Then I take a model color red, fluorescent red, and building it to look like a little bit of a glow. And as soon as I do that, I realize I kind of want to put a little more glow. So I glaze some of the red, fluorescent red on the edges of the wings there, just to kind of give that like little touch of glow. And finally, to start the cockpit, I need to get rid of the blue that I randomly put on there. So I'm covering everything first with Vallejo black, and I take Calibite green from Citadel, and I'm putting it just to one side of the cockpit. And right after that, I mix 50-50 Calibite green, and I mix it with mint twister. and I just want to start building up more of a little bit of a layering going down. So I go from mixing 50-50 then to 75% mint twister and a little bit of the calabyte green, and finally just the mint twister down on the final bottom edge of the cockpit. And this was a point of contention. I wanted to do just the white dots. Then I wanted to do these kind of like streaks on it, and I could not get the streaks to look good. I do it 2 or 3 times, and then I ended up just covering it up because I did not like the way it ended up looking. So as I was covering it up, I decided to try this. I added some purple and I wanted to cover up the streaks that I didn't like. Then I took a glaze of the calabyte green and mint twister and tried to blend it a little bit. It doesn't read very well on video, but in person, it's kind of that small detail touch. I could see that blend from purple to the greens, and I like it. And again, it's kind of those like small touches you do to your models. Other people don't see, but you can kind of be proud of when you look back at it. And finally, like how I do with everything, I brush ultra matte varnish on all my models. I live in a place that has extreme cold or humidity, and I just don't trust the cans. So when I brush varnish on, I'm brushing on very carefully. And this is it. This is the final result of this Aerospace fighter. I love this thing. I am beyond joyful how this thing turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and really appreciate you checking out this video. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the Painted Topher.